go from for those that didn't understand A, but we're going to go over A also. Okay, so, and we did go through for loop on Thursday, right? We went through the rest of the chapter in this class, I think I remember. That was page 135. We covered, I think I recorded it, so everybody had it. Let's see. The only part that I had not gone over was starting with page 135, using a for loop. I thought we went over that. Did we not? Nick, do you remember? We went over, anybody else? Alec, anybody remember? Enrique, what we went over? Did we cover for loop in here with 5 sections? And now I'm really off sync. I'm missing last week. So I'm trying to remember if I thought we did for loop in here. But I can go over parts of it again. But before we do that, problem 7A was what was assigned. And I do know that in here we solved these. We went over number 1, A through F, any problems there was with those, because some students had some trouble going through that pseudocode and find out what the output was. So we did go over that. And then 3, 4, and 5 are actually in Evernote, down at the bottom of Evernote. Oops, I'm on the wrong one. Let me go to the right. Oh, it's probably going to make me close it and open it up again. Okay, let me find the right notebook. Why is that one open? There we go. Okay, so at the end of your Evernote, you should see where I put the HTML files here for chapter 4, number 1, exercises.docx. So in this document, I show you what you should have gotten for all of those A through F. And so if there was any of them when you looked at that you didn't understand, let me know. Then we did number HTML for number 1. I'm not sure which number 1 that was. Was it one of those exercises? Then I did number 4, chapter 4, number 3, because 2 was assigned. We can go over 2 if you want to, but if you are able to understand 3, then you should have understood 2, because it's just a modification. Then number 4, 5, then I did the pseudocode and flowchart we did in class for number 6, and the JavaScript for number 6. You know, these HTML files, you have to download and right-click and open them in TextPad, because if you just double-click them, they're going to open in the browser. Are you not seeing that, Dave?
I'm seeing 1, 3A, 4, 5, 6, flowchart, 6 HTML. Did you say you had the explanations for all the exercises on here?
No, just one. Up here is the document for number 1, but no, I haven't put the one for all of them yet. No, I did do, here's one for 7, and these are 2 different ones for number 7. I don't know why how the names of them are like that, but that's the one we actually did number 6. So number 7, you were to do for class today. So we'll look at a couple of them. Who got that done? 7A. David? Is David the only one? Come on, you guys. What's the matter with y'all? Yeah, because if we go over it and I show you the answer and you've got the answers here, that's not going to help you when you do the project and the test. So you need to be doing work at home. You have to do work at home. Just coming to class isn't going to get it. Okay? You won't pass because you can't pass you can turn in. That's why I give you all of this stuff, because after you work it out, you can go back and check yourself and see if you're getting it. All right? So, Honest Ralph's Used Car Company allows customers to purchase cars over a 24-month period by making 24 equal payments and charging no interest. Design an application that gets customer data, including an account number, customer name, and purchase price. Output the account number and name, then output the customer's projected balance each month for the next 24 months after the payment is made. Okay, so we're going to have how many input fields? 3, okay? 3 input fields. All right, so what are those 3 input fields? Name, and purchase price, right? Okay, so then we have to have, depending upon how you do the problem, the one that we have here, let me see if I still have Dreamweaver open with them. Yeah, I do. Okay, so this is one way. Oh, wait, this is the one that we went in. Let's look at this one. I think it's the one before we did B. Yeah. Okay, so this is just the JavaScript. So I found that a lot of students, for some reason, are going from the JavaScript to the pseudocode, which I don't have a problem with that because script programming is more kind of like pseudocode. So if that's easier for you, that's fine. But if you don't understand this JavaScript here and you want it put in pseudocode, let me know and we'll write it up in pseudocode also. All right, so here is one way that one student did it, and then we'll look at David since he did his. Here's the 3 input fields: name, purchase price, and account number. Then they're going to have a variable called payment where they calculate the amount of the monthly payment. Now let me see if this is the one that they did use balance. Then they're going to have a running balance where they each month subtract from the current balance. And then the pay count is equal, the number of payments says 23. Now, I understand there's 24 payments, but if you start with 0, then you would say pay count greater than 0. If you're using a constant, then you want to stop at 23 or it goes to a negative, right? Is that what you did? Okay. So here's where the input variables are requested. And here's where the purchase price, the payment is calculated, the payment amount, by saying purchase price divided by 24 will give you the payment amount for 24 months. And then they're writing out, and you can either do this right after the prompts, it doesn't matter the order of these few items, but they're going to say customer name is, account number is, purchase price. And here's something that I had told you all that you can use, but you probably have not. ToFixed is a function. Did you use it? Okay, great. So the way you use ToFixed is also, you can look it up. It gives you examples, but this is the variable per price that they want to be displayed with 2 decimal places. So it would say per price dot ToFixed. This dot in JavaScript and in Java and in C, C++, all those languages shows ownership. It says this ToFixed method belongs to this variable. So every variable is considered an object, and so it has methods. Yes, David?
Mine worked, so this is why I'm asking this question. I see how they've got, customer name is plus name plus BR.
Uh-huh.
I used a comma.
And it worked too.
And it worked. I used a comma name plus BR, but it still worked the way I wanted it to.
Well, see, script programming sometimes is a little more forgiving than in languages. So that's why I like to use it, because the syntax sometimes is an issue and sometimes they'll give you more than one way to do it. But I think if you look it up in reference, it's saying this literal, concatenate the name to it and then concatenate a BR. Concatenate means add it to the end. And so programmatically, this is more correct than the comma, but if the comma works, that's not a problem. See, I think script programming is not as strict on the rules.
So we should get to that.
Yeah, this habit will help you in a language later on. because add means concatenate to the end, not replace like the equal sign does. Okay, or the comma. Commas normally used like an input or initializing a list of variables because you don't want it added to the end. But here we want it actually added to the end. We don't, but it worked because it's more like a list. Okay.
The reason why I use the commas because when we first started doing,
we'd use commas.
we would just use commas.
Right.
And I was adding a VR and I didn't want to have to put a different field, so I put plus on there. It worked. I just was.
With variables, sometimes it'll let you do it the other way, but with variables, it pretty much has you add them. But either one will work, and we're not trying to learn the syntax, so either way, if you get it to work, that's all that matters.
One of the things I used was when I first did it, it was putting them all, each payment and balance on a line, but it's so jammed together. And I tried putting like additional quotation marks in between, like down near the bottom where it says balance is dollar amount in quote plus balance to fix, where it actually gets
Yes.
the dollar value. I tried putting additional quotes in between there with some spaces to try to space it out, but it wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it.
As that since there was nothing in the field, it acted as.
Yeah, it'll make you do something that's called ampersand non-breaking space, NBSP, and you can do it. But I think, see now here.
I ended up just putting plus VR and putting.
Okay, well that whatever works is fine with this. And see what you notice here, she has a comma here. I think this was Laura's from a night class. But anyway, she put this variable, then comma, and a literal. So, I mean, she's got commas in there too. So that seemed to work. But here, what we're doing is calculating the balance each time as purchase price minus payment. And you can do it different than this. You can use purchase price as the balance and not have a separate variable. You can say purchase price equals purchase price minus payment and not have a separate variable here. That's another way some did it. But here, this is the loop, while pay count is greater than 0. So here you're having to decrement pay count. Now, she did the decrementing before she printed it out. Let's see for sure that this one runs right. Let me make sure. I can't remember if this is the one that okay, customers, first and last name, customer's account number, enter purchase price. We're going to enter 24 because it's easy to see a dollar payment each month, okay? Only I should put 0.00. Okay, monthly payment amount is $1. After payment of $1 balance is 23, and it does go all the way down to 0 and zeroes it out. Okay, so depending upon when you decrement it is how it'll work differently. Okay, let's open and see. Okay, that was one. Let me see what that. Okay, this one was even a little simpler than that one was. It didn't have all of the output fancy stuff. This one does work. This one has name, account, price, and payment, and they don't use variable balance because they just used price. So down here, this said price equals price minus payment. So each time that original input field right here was just used and subtracted from instead of having a separate variable. And this one works too. So with this one, enter customer's name, account number, price. But you see, it's not quite as nice of output there because on this one, it doesn't have the 0.00 and it doesn't say what 24, 23, 22, and it starts with 24 and goes down to 1. So it really never zeroes out the balance. which is really what you want to see, right? So that's why, if you look on the difference, is how they set up the, they started with, where's that at? Price greater than 0. Okay, the original price is printed out. Then they say price equals price minus payment. So you see the 24 first, and then they go down to 23, but it's going to drop out because they're not, they're decrementing. How's it going through there that many times? Is it looping while price? Oh, they're using, okay, so they're using, that's right, I remember talking about this one now. Okay, they're using this actual price as long as it's greater than 0. Then, so the last time through, it was 1. And after they subtracted payment, where'd that go? After they subtract 1 minus payment is 1, this is 0. So it doesn't ever print out the 0 because it drops out of the loop right here. Okay. So even though it is at a 0 balance, it never prints the 0 balance. So
if they would use balance and put it down in the bottom, balance equals balance minus payment, it would probably 0.
well, actually what they needed to do was either, yeah, okay, now what are you saying? Use a balance and calculate balance right here?
Yeah.
Price minus payment. Yeah, if you would have started balance at 20, see, balance would have to, or you need to do, really all you should have to do is this. Oops, I did that wrong. Didn't mean that. I meant to put it here. Okay, now let's see what happens.
It started with 23.
It started with 23 plus it ended with 0, but you notice all I did was change the order of these two statements. So I have price printing out before, I mean, I have the calculation before I print out. So they were printing out before they calculated the price, so it started out with 24 and went down to 1. Okay, so those are two different ways that it's done. And it's, this is actually, you have to have this part. Is yours pretty close, David, or you want to open yours? Do you want me to open yours up? Okay, but I mean, is it look like either one of these is what I'm saying. Okay, so let's look at another way of doing it. Okay, let's look at a different way of doing it then. Yeah, let me go back to the other folders. Oh, come on. Slow.
Mine's a lot like the first one you showed, except the output. I just managed it differently.
Okay. Still loading, still loading.
I had a hard time with one specific aspect of it. When I first started putting it out, when I put purchase price,
Uh-huh.
I put purchase price equal, getting the prompt for it.
Mm-hmm.
But purchase price equals just prompt, please enter the purchase price of the vehicle as 0.00. And it basically just stopped there.
I don't guess this is going to give it to me. Let's see. Let me try it again. Having trouble with the Google Drive. Okay, there. Maybe it's going to load it. Let's see.
And I figured every other numerical value that we've actually had to use, we had to put it as price equals 1 times price.
Uh-huh.
I put the times 1, which I saw that's what the same the first one
Was done that way, yeah.
And it worked. I was just like, oh.
Now see while this is loading, I'll get it up here in a minute maybe. The second part is to modify the car payment application so it executes continuously for any number of customers until a sentinel value is supplied for the second account number. So what's that telling us about that outer loop? What kind of a loop is it? It's a loop within a loop, but when it says a sentinel value, what kind of a loop is that? Is like a counter controlled is a definite loop number of times, and a sentinel value is an indefinite number of times that you go through the loop, right? Right. You say, okay, you have to tell the user also at that prompt what they have to enter to make the program end, right? So if we look over here at, there's a problem that was like that has an inner and an outer loop that we did, and the one that was most common was on page 124 when we did the quiz report, when we printed out the quiz sheet. And we went over that in class, and on 125 is the pseudocode and flowchart for that. And that's what Honest Ralph, and we'll have to go back and look at yours because I'm gonna have to open up one of these others. Okay, so this is what Honest Ralph is going to be like. What we did in part A is this while loop that's represented in this one as the 1, 2, 3 lines. That's the inner one. Let me bring this up on my PowerPoint. Let's see, which one is this one? Here's one that I did too, that I was showing last night as one that is, this is one also that would have an inner loop, but it's got an accumulator, which is part of for loop. Let's see here. Go back up here and see if I can find which figure this is. Okay, this is before this one. Four. 4-7. This must be it. Okay, here it is. All right, so this is the quiz answer sheet. Now, unless you guys already know how to do 7B, you need to be watching and not typing, okay? One of these days, I'm going to shut your monitors off. I shouldn't have this in a computer classroom, probably. Other professors don't, but I'd like y'all to have the opportunity to work on your things when we have lab time. But it's really important that you pay attention if you don't, unless you already understand it. Then I don't have any problems with you not listening. Okay, so here we're going to, this is the quiz answer sheet using a nested loop. And in this quiz answer sheet, you'll notice that they have an inner loop. Now, if you can't see this up here, I understand this is on page 125 on your book, in your book. Because I know like Nick's way back and Alec and I forget who else can't see back there probably. But this inner loop, all it's doing, this would have been the first program like in Honest Ralph's. This is the first loop that determines the number of question lines to put in. But then they also needed a loop to control 5 times of printing this part number. So it's outside this inner loop, right? But now what's different about what 7B is asking us to do with Honest Ralph with the outer loop. What's different with our outer loop here on this one and on what the Honest Ralph program asks? How many times do we go through this outer loop? 5. Good. And so how many times are we going to go through the one that's 7B that asks for a sentinel value? Forever. And until somebody gives us a stop. So this one actually has 2 counter-controlled loops. Now we're going to look at one in the book that has a sentinel value controlling the outer loop. And that one, we actually have 2 output. Let's see, not that one. Okay, after that one, if we go over to, what's this one? Price not equal to 0. Nope, that one's not it. Okay, it's the one that I had up a while ago. On page 138 and 139, it's called an accumulator. It uses an accumulator variable, which is really what Honest Ralph is using when we use that balance or that purchase price. We're accumulating a balance, but we're actually subtracting from it. So you usually think of accumulator as adding to, right? So if you look on page 138, if you've read this chapter, there's a term called accumulator, which is a variable that you use to gather or accumulate values. So in this particular problem, there's a realtor or a real estate company, and they want to create this month-end sales report. So they want to give the user the ability to input an address and a price of what they sold. And at the end of the month, they want to know that grand total that's been sold. So they've set up a variable called total. Let me see if that's what it's called here. What they call it? Accum value. If you look at the flow chart and on 139 and then on 140 is the pseudocode. But you'll notice they have highlighted. Let me see if I can find that one now. I went past it. Yeah, it's past there. Go down here. I think one more. 415, that's pretty close to the end. So about there, maybe it's this one, is figure. Okay, here it is. All right, so what they did on this particular problem is they have defined the input. It's kind of small, but if I go bigger, I lose a lot of it off my screen. All right, so up here, our input box, they have their variables, and they have added an accumulator variable, and they actually call it accum value. A lot of times I'll call that total, because that's really what it is. It's a total amount, right? So that's a little shorter name than accum value, but they're using that to indicate to you that that's an accumulator field. And what are they doing? They're setting it to 0 because they're not taking a chance of there being some kind of garbage in that variable before they start accumulating a total into it. Okay, and then these are just the headings for the report so that it will look like what's on page 138. And then you'll notice they have, and we would call this a constant in JavaScript, we would still call it a var quit is equal to, and they're setting it to all Z's. I like to set mine to quit. That's kind of a more common way to do it than all Z's, you know, saying enter all Z's. How about enter quit when you're done, okay? Yeah, or stop or something like that. So that's what we do in ours. But here they have the boxes that output heading 1, heading 2. They output for the user to input the address. Now here is also where in the flowchart it doesn't indicate to the user what they have to enter in address to make the program stop. Yeah,
I didn't realize that was, the string quit was actually,
that's what it was.
Yeah, I was like, what is that for?
It's not even told anywhere what to do. So actually in this, they should put up there, they should say prompt. And inside that prompt, they should say, please enter an address or quit to stop, or something that makes sense to you. And then we would come over here at the top, and we would have to change that ZZZ to quit, right? So up here where they initialized quit to ZZZ, we need to initialize it to whatever we tell the user to enter to stop the program, right? And if we put lowercase, then we need to be sure we put lowercase for the user to enter, okay? Yeah, tell them enter whatever way you want them to enter it. And we also learned to validate the data here in a minute. But then we would input the address, so that way this makes sense, as long as address is not equal to quit. But you remember also in JavaScript, anybody know how to write not equals in JavaScript? Yes, only it's exclamation point first and then equals. You were close. All right, so that's how you do it in JavaScript. So it'd say, as long as address is not equal to quit, as long as the user hasn't typed in quit, let's go to this loop that says, enter the price of the property, input price, output address and price, add that total to the accumulator, and then we have to ask for another address and input address, and go back up and enter the loop again, asking, did they enter a valid address? And stop and go out and print the total. Okay, so we have three parts here that are a little different than on a counter-controlled loop. We have what we call, sometimes we call this the priming input, because it's prior to the very first time through the loop. So we say it sets up the input. So you have to be sure that you've asked the user to put something there.
Kind of like the first payment.
Yes, and then they ask the question, and then you have to also be sure that you again ask for the input at the bottom of this inner loop, right?
If you want to continue.
Right, if you want it to continue. Now this one actually is just one loop. It isn't the outer, I keep saying outer, it's actually just one loop showing you using an accumulator value. So this was how we did part A, not part B of Ralph's, right? Somewhat like that, except for we had a number of times instead of a sentinel value.
Right,
we had an endpoint instead of not knowing. Okay, so in this next slide is just in your book, using a loop to validate data. This is the other thing that we can use a loop for. And let me make this down a little bit. 150. We can use a loop to validate data. These are the things that are listed out on page 141 in your book. Defensive programming is where that you want to know, when you leave it up to the user to enter the input, that they've entered what you expect. For instance, if you were asking them to enter a birth month number, if they entered 13, that's invalid. So you would want to know that, and you'd want them to say, no, this is wrong, enter another one. So Well, in some cases, you want the numeric to print out. And even if you said
Well,
enter,
even if you did that, you could just set, like, January equals 1.
right. The problem is you're going to have a user that's not going to read that and they're going to put something in wrong. So one of the biggest things the first year I programmed at the State Tax Commission, that I got called in at 2 in the morning for a data exception because the data entry people typed something in wrong and it blew up the program because there wasn't any validation in the program. And this was many years ago. And so now there's a lot of debug features in there that didn't happen. But data exceptions are one of the biggest things, because used to, I don't know if you all have ever seen pictures, because I know you're too young to remember, where there were rooms, whole floors of data entry people. And there's people that got jobs doing that, where they entered into IBM cards that ran across one line of code, one line at a time. What's that?
Office space.
Off, what do you mean? Off?
Would it be office space? That's what they-
Oh, that's what they were doing in there. So y'all have seen movies where they did that. Rows and rows. Well, my dad used to manage places like that. He was a systems analyst and he was over rooms and rooms of those, where even in banks, that's how it was. There'd be a back room, they called it the back room. And that's where they would slide your checks through and encode them. And now they have different ways of doing that. But that was what would happen, because people are sitting there doing data entry all day. They're going to hit the wrong keys, even if they don't mean to. So these are ways to validate and to keep it going until somebody enters a valid entry. So that's what this next flow chart is showing a small loop inside a program that could validate whether the user had entered a valid month or not. There's 3 ways, different ways to do this, and it's showing you can reprompt, which is really usually the best way, because you don't want it to just fall out of the program when they enter invalid. You want them to keep entering until they get a good data. And that's what this part's showing you. Input a month again. Okay, so that's what the last part of the chapter's about. But now what we want to do is we want to see about a loop inside of a loop, like was on 124 and 125, but we want that outer loop, you to be able to print as many part numbers, say, as you wanted to. And so in Honest Ralph, this inside program, this one that did the one person's balance, we want to take that and encapsulate it or put it inside of an outer loop that's going to let the user keep entering customers and calculating payment amounts as long as they want. Okay?
So what exactly is 7B asking?
That's what it's asking you.
Modify the card payment application so
They just want you to repeat the program.
Yeah, repeat it. They want you to be able to do it for as many account numbers as you want.
So don't
Okay,
you,
so
so you just like put your full program in a loop and say, okay, while name does not equal quit, continue this program.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So you can use the form of the part number in the quiz, but instead of saying when it's greater than 5, you would say when it's no longer equal to quit, or when it is equal to quit, because you would say not equal. So I actually have one that started here, that we started, I think. Okay, because it was asking you that when the account number for any number of customers until a sentinel value is supplied for the account number. Okay, so they're saying when the account number, so up here, the only thing we added in this particular problem is we set quit equal to quit. Okay, and so right here, what we added, okay, if you look at the difference in all of this right here was 7A. All of that was 7A. because we asked customer name, print out name, purchase price, all this. Then we calculated the payment amount. And then here they used a counter equal to 24 and decremented the counter. So that's a little different than that first one we did. We could do it to the first one too. So on this one, they print out the purchase price, then decrement counter. So it's going to go through this loop until the 24 payments print out. Then it's going to drop down here and ask for an account number again, right? That's where we have to alter and ask again for the account number. And then it will go all the way back up to this loop and say, is account number not equal to quit? So if the user types in QUIT, what's going to happen? It's going to drop from here down to the end of the program, right? Otherwise, as long as there's a valid account number, it's going to go through here and calculate payments.
Right, so basically the difference in that section from 7A is it doesn't have enter your account number. You're already automatically entering your account number in order to start the process.
Right, because you know you're going to enter one. So you have added this and this, which is your alter account number. So you've added your priming account number. Remember I said priming input? Whenever you have a sentinel value, you've got to prime the input. You've got to put something in there, like priming your engine. Isn't that a term, y'all? If anybody's a mechanic, if they do. Then they test it. And if it's no longer equal to that, then they drop out. They don't have any more accounts to. Priming input is the account asking for the account number before going into the while, right? Okay, so then I'm going to come up here and let's run it and see how it does, if it does what we want. Enter the account number, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, enter your name. Enter the price of the car. The first one I'm going to say 24. Okay, then I say enter an account number or quit to quit. You notice that that's what we added in there, right? So it's actually telling, I know back to the back you probably can't see that, but it says enter an account number or quit to quit. Okay, so let's say I want another customer. I want this customer at let's say 48. Enter your name. And, oh, I did 48 instead. I put the price first. So that's the account number. So let's just say, I don't think this one will come out even, but we'll do it anyway. 100. Okay, $100 is your purchase price. I know, and it didn't in this program. So I'll go back and we'll fix one that has that. Okay, so now is another, it's asking again, enter an account number or quit to quit. Okay, let's see if this works. That's what we can't see it until we get down to till we quit, because it scrolled down too far. Okay, so I'm going to enter quit. Right, it continued, yes. So I did quit, so it stopped my program, and there's the second one. I put account number is 48, name DD, your cost is $100, and because we didn't do the 2 fixed, it's got all those cents running out there, right? And it even came up with a negative, your account number, because this one actually, it's a 1, excuse me, that why we did the 23 in the next one, because this one came out with a negative balance. So if I go to one of these others, let's see, let's go to, this one ran this way. So now if I put, I'd have to put my while loop and stuff. I can go ahead and copy that so I don't have to actually I'll go here and copy this. Oh, that was not smart. I accidentally closed it. Let's see. Open reset. I think it was this one. Yeah, that was it. But it's now I won't have it to copy from, I think. Okay, so in this one, I'm going to go right after I establish my variables, and I'm going to fix my outer loop. And so I need to have another curly brace here, right? Okay, and then it's going to print all these things out, which should be inside this loop, so it's easier to see if it's, you know, you don't have to do this to make it work, but I think it makes more sense, so I move things over. But up here, I also, because it came from another program, I need to change this to match the variable that I have in here, right? ACCT-NUM. Yeah, I could change this variable, but then I've used it down here also, so it's about a half a dozen of one. Actually, I can do a find replace if I wanted to. Let's see, edit. No, but you can do a find replace in TextPad too. This is Dreamweaver. Okay, I want to find account number and replace it with ACCT-NUM. That's right, replace all. Okay, so that should have done it. I don't know why it made this come up all the way, because I don't want this one. All right, so now I've got, let's see what I've got. Type here, then this is still part of that loop, right? Oops. My mouse goes crazy. Come on, what is it doing? Okay. This one has the fixed thing in it, so it should print out better. And then this is the inner loop right here. Let's just go over here. Okay, and that's the inner loop. So now what goes outside the inner loop? Right, I can take this and copy it, right? Because I've got to do another request at the end for more input to know whether I'm ready to be at the end. And then my bottom curly brace has to go here from my loop up there. Okay, so let's see how that works. So all I did, you see, the only thing that I added to this whole entire A program was this and this, right? Yeah, and it's the same thing, really. It's a priming input, except for the while part is in there right here, because I had to add that. Okay, so let's see what happens. Enter account number. This time, oh, what did I do? It ended already. your account number, I must have did something wrong in there. The very first time it fell out. While account number is not equal, oh, there's not a quit in there. I forgot to add the quit, right? So var, so that's the only other thing I have to add is my sentinel value. I forgot to do that. Equals QIT. Okay, so we can do $100 now and it should work. Oops, I'm in account number.
You have to comment that, input, that prompt out.
Enter customer's account. Oh, did it do it twice?
Yeah, you started off the process with enter your account number. Since you're modifying the first one where it asks for the account number the second time, after the name, you need to comment out the second prompt. Or should I say the original enter your account number prompt?
See if this will come out. Hold on just a second. Let's see what you're saying. Let me get it open. It's not wanting to. Enter customer's first and last name. Now I should be able to put quit in there and it stopped, but no, it's not. Something wrong with this one, right? Oh, that'll make the whole thing. Force quit. Well, I'll leave it there for now because it'll make all of these. Oh, that'll be all right. Let me tell it to force quit. Google Chrome. I'll have to open